Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. In Afghanistan, the Taliban have captured another district, Abag, the capital of northern province of Samangan. It is the sixth regional capital to fall to the group in less than a week. Meanwhile, the UN said at least 27 children have been killed in the past 3 days amid fierce fighting between the government forces and the Taliban. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Sardar Masood Khan has urged the Afghan government to refrain from a blame game. At a news conference in Islamabad, he said Pakistan is only a facilitator of the Afghan peace process and not a guarantor. He said Pakistan has no favorites in Afghanistan and is deeply concerned on human rights violations there. In northern Mali, over 50 people have been killed when militants invaded 3 villages near the country's border with Niger. The West African nation has been battling a militant insurgency since 2012. Thousands have died and millions have fled their homes due to the violence. A major UN report says human activity is changing the climate in unprecedented and sometimes irreversible ways. The landmark scientific study warned of increasingly extreme heat waves, droughts and flooding in just over a decade. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called the study a code red for humanity. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In Afghanistan, the Taliban have captured another district, Abag, the capital of the northern province of Samangan. In a tweet, a Taliban spokesperson said the group has taken control of all government buildings, including the police headquarters. It is the sixth regional capital to fall to the group in less than a week. The Taliban have also announced that they are advancing towards Mazar-e-Sharif, the largest city in the country's north. The government forces said they are fighting to retake the fallen cities. Meanwhile, the UN's Children Agency said at least 27 children have been killed in the past 3 days amid fierce fighting. The fatalities were reported in Kandahar, Khost and Paktia provinces. Pakistan has urged the Afghan government to refrain from a blame game and engage with Islamabad in a meaningful manner. At a news conference in Islamabad, Foreign Minister Sardar Masood Khan said Pakistan is only a facilitator of the Afghan peace process and not a guarantor. He said his country will not bear the mistakes of others in Afghanistan. He also said Islamabad rejects continued foreign presence in Afghanistan and supports the American withdrawal on time. The foreign minister voiced concern on human rights violations during the ongoing fighting in Afghanistan. He regretted India's refusal to allow Pakistan to address a Security Council briefing on the Afghan security situation. Qureshi added that Pakistan is an important stakeholder who has suffered the most due to the Afghan war. Pakistan says it attaches high importance to its relations with Afghanistan. The Foreign Office said the two countries must work jointly towards the shared objective of a peaceful and a stable Afghanistan. It communicated Islamabad's findings into the reported complaint of Afghan ambassador's daughter to a visiting Kabul delegation. In a statement, spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said the findings did not corroborate the reported incident. Chaudhary said the law enforcement agency's conclusions are backed by a thorough investigation. The spokesperson reiterated Islamabad's request for provision of additional information and access to evidence and the complainant. Azad Jammu and Kashmir President Sardar Masood Khan says India must be held accountable under the Geneva Conventions for its heinous crimes in occupied Kashmir. He said this in a video message to the International Solidarity Conference on Kashmir. Sardar Masood Khan said India has no right to sit in the UN Security Council or preside over it. He said that New Delhi has been committing war crimes against humanity and is involved in genocide in the valley. The AJK president added that India has been continuing the siege of occupied Jammu and Kashmir for the past 2 years, illegally detaining and torturing thousands of men, boys and children in prisons. He said millions of Hindus from India have been illegally domiciled to reduce Muslim majority of the occupied state. The UN has welcomed the shared commitment of Russia and the US to engage in nuclear arms control dialogue. Secretary General Antonio Guterres delivered a message on the 76th anniversary of the US atomic bombing of Nagasaki. Guterres backed both sides' reaffirmation that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. He noted the prospects for the use of the nuclear weapons are as dangerous as at any time since the Cold War. The UN chief called on all the parties of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty to take steps to eliminate nuclear arms. In July, Washington and Moscow held nuclear talks in Geneva and agreed to reconvene in September after informal consultations. China has slammed the US over its move to provide Hong Kong residents with a temporary safe haven. A Foreign Office spokesperson termed Washington's move a blatant attack on China's national security. In a statement, Hua Chunying said it is another embodiment of the US's gross interference in China's Hong Kong affairs. Hua said Beijing firmly rejects the move and has lodged stern representations with the US side. She urged the US to truly respect China's sovereignty and stop meddling in its internal matters. Last week, Washington issued a memorandum allowing the US-based Hong Kongers to extend their stay in the country. Israeli troops have demolished 6 Palestinian structures in the occupied West Bank. The destruction of property in the occupied territory is prohibited under international law. However, Israeli authorities routinely raze homes and other facilities in annexed East Jerusalem or the West Bank. Meanwhile, the occupation forces have also detained 8 Palestinians in overnight raids in Nablus and Ramallah. Over 4,500 Palestinians, including women and children, are estimated to be held in Israeli prisons. India has reported 447 deaths from COVID-19 and more than 35,000 infections in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.3 million lives and infected over 203 million people so far. More in this report.
Amid the global surge in infections, more countries are opting for lockdowns as well as speeding up their inoculation drives. In Tunisia, over 500,000 citizens received vaccinations in a single day as part of a national campaign to counter the pandemic. Meanwhile, a survey in Israel has found out that the third vaccine dose of Pfizer has similar side effects to that of the second. Experts have warned that vaccine hesitancy could lead to the development of future COVID variants that were resistant to the current crop of vaccines. They say unvaccinated people who had previously been infected by the virus also remain vulnerable to any new variants of the virus.
There was a study that came out within this past week that showed that if you are infected, recover, and get one shot of the vaccine, your protection doubles what it would be if you got 2 shots of the vaccine and were not infected. So it is a major advantage for people who have been infected and recovered to really strongly protect them against getting reinfected with a new variant.
In the United States, the number of children hospitalized with COVID-19 is rising across the country. Health experts are attributing this trend to the Delta variant being more likely to infect children than the original Alpha strain. The country's teachers' union says the vaccine mandate should be required for teachers to protect students who are too young to be inoculated. Southern part of the U.S. remains the epicenter of the latest outbreak. People flocked to get inoculated in Florida as the state reported a record of nearly 24,000 new cases a day earlier.
One mother who just was recently married, just celebrated their 1-year wedding anniversary with a young daughter, and to now see her gone when you really just know that it was avoidable.
In Australia, a news poll showed Prime Minister Scott Morrison's public support dropped 4 points to 47% amid growing frustration over lockdowns and a slow vaccination drive. The country's state of New South Wales expanded its lockdown to the rural town of Tamworth due to concerns of virus spread into the countryside.
In Pakistan, the COVID-19 has claimed 53 more lives over the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the nationwide tally of fatalities has risen to 23,918. It said the virus infected over 4,000 people overnight, pushing the toll over 1,071,000. The ministry said over 964,000 people have recovered from the disease so far. Pakistan's positivity rate has declined to 7.5%. Meanwhile, the country has administered over 37 million doses. The United States has donated 1 million COVID-19 antigen rapid diagnostic tests to Pakistan. U.S. Aid Mission Director Julie Conan said the rapid tests will help the government adjust its strategy to curb the spread of the virus. The shipment was formally received by Prime Minister's Special Assistant on Health, Dr. Faisal Sultan. In his remarks at the ceremony, Dr. Sultan said the aid reflects the mutual friendship between the U.S. and Pakistan. The U.S. has so far delivered more than $50 million in COVID-19 assistance through its partnership with Pakistan. In July, Washington provided 5.5 million doses of the Moderna vaccine. The Pakistan Navy war game Shamshire Bahar 8 has begun in Karachi. The war game will comprise the participation of tri-services and government ministries. Speaking at the event, Naval Chief Admiral Mohammad Amjad Khan Niazi underscored the significance of war games in the military planning process. Niazi stressed that Pakistan Navy will ensure security of sea lines as merchant traffic to and from Gwadar port increases. The Shamshire Bahar is a flagship war game of Pakistan Navy that is held biannually to corroborate various concepts. In Pakistan, Prime Minister Imran Khan has inaugurated world's biggest mayavacci forest in Lahore as part of a monsoon plantation drive. The forest has been developed over 12 acres with more than 165,000 plants. Another 53 forests have been completed in different parts of the city to create sinks for carbon and to reduce pollution. All the forests have been geotagged for monitoring their growth and development, while 500 million trees are being planted across the country under the largest plantation drive. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In northern Mali, over 50 people have been killed when militants invaded 3 villages near the country's border with Niger. Mali has been struggling to contain an insurgency that first emerged in the north of the country in 2012. It has since spread to the center of the country and neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. Thousands have been killed in the fighting to date, and hundreds of thousands of people have fled their homes. Sudan has summoned its envoy to Ethiopia for consultations amid tension between the neighbors over the conflict in Tigray region. The foreign ministry says the move was in response to Ethiopian official statement on Khartoum's alleged refusal in helping to end the conflict. It said Sudan's interest in resolving the issue is part of its commitment to regional peace and security. Khartoum's move was the latest sign of deteriorating ties between the two neighbors. The border tensions began after Sudan deployed troops to its border with Ethiopia last year. The issue comes at a time when Ethiopia, Sudan and Egypt are also trying to resolve a three-way row over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. In Japan, Nagasaki is marking the 76th anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing of the Japanese city. Around 500 participants, including Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, gathered at Nagasaki Peace Park to commemorate the incident. More in this report.
On August 9th, 1945, at 11:02 a.m., the B-29 U.S. bomber dropped a plutonium bomb on Nagasaki, resulting in the loss of more than 70,000 lives. The tragic incident came 3 days after the United States made the world's first atomic attack on Hiroshima, killing 140,000 people. At a ceremony held at the Nagasaki Peace Park on the incident's 76th anniversary, Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga urged the international community to work for nuclear disarmament through mutual engagement and dialogue.
I would like to offer my sincere condolences to the souls of the many victims of the atomic bomb. I would also like to express my heartfelt sympathy to those who are still suffering from the after effects of the radiation exposure.
In his speech, Mayor Tomihisa Tai called out US and Russia, which have the biggest arsenals by far, to do more for nuclear disarmament. He raised concern that nuclear states have backtracked from disarmament efforts and are upgrading and miniaturizing nuclear weapons. As per estimates, around 210,000 people were killed by the attacks, leaving more than 150,000 injured.
Greece is battling wildfires for the 7th day, with the biggest front on its island of Evia near the capital, where thousands of people have fled their homes. More in this report.
Wildfires are continuing to ravage parts of Europe. Since Tuesday, the Greek Coast Guards have evacuated more than 2,000 people from different parts of Evia. A firefighting plane also crashed on the western island of Zakynthos, but no casualties were reported. Ferocious fires have killed at least 10 people in Greece and Turkey, with many admitted to hospitals. In Turkey, while rain brought some respite from the blazes, at least 6 wildfires are still blazing out of control. In Italy, efforts are still ongoing to curb fires in the southern areas of Apulia and Calabria, while new blazes broke out in the province around Palermo. Huge fires have also been burning across Siberia in northern Russia for several weeks, forcing the evacuation of a dozen villages. Spreading fires are now threatening a nuclear research site in the city of Sarov.
In the U.S. state of California, the monstrous Dixie Fire has grown to become the second largest wildfire in the state's history. It is the second in size only to the last year's August complex fire, which burned through over 1 million acres. This reporter has more.
Firefighters are continuing to tackle the blaze while bracing for higher temperatures and more raging flames in the coming days. The Dixie Fire has scorched more than 463,000 acres and now covers an area larger than Los Angeles City. Officials say more than 5,000 firefighters are battling the blaze, which is just 21% contained. They said the flames destroyed at least 404 structures and still threaten over 13,000. Authorities say about 107 large blazes across 15 U.S. states have burned through more than 2 million acres. Meanwhile, down south, wildfires are sweeping across Bolivia's eastern lowlands, known for rich wildfire. The flames have devastated the town of Robor and San Matias in the department of Santa Cruz. Over in Peru, fire crews are battling to extinguish fires that have so far consumed more than 1,000 hectares of natural forests.
It's time for a short break. Please stay tuned. Another business updates. European stocks are trading mostly slightly lower, bucking more positive sentiment overnight in Asia. The CAC 40 in Paris, London's FTSE and Frankfurt's DAX have slipped marginally. Italy's FTSE MIB, however, has edged up. Earlier, most Asian bourses gained. Now for the weather updates, we have Raja Sarosh with us.
Thank you. We're going to start with Abu Dhabi, where weather is expected to be extremely hot, with temperatures rising to 45 degrees centigrade. While in Amsterdam, temperatures are at 18 degrees centigrade, with dark clouds predicting heavy thunderstorm. If we head to Ankara, the weather is rainy, with temperatures at 29 degrees centigrade. Moving down under to Auckland, the temperature is chilly at 12 degrees centigrade, with thin layer of clouds covering the sky. Now, if you're traveling to Bangkok, there will be an expected thunderstorm with temperatures around 36 degrees centigrade. In Beijing, the thunderstorm is predicted with temperatures at 31 degrees centigrade. While in Beirut, you will experience sunny weather with temperatures at 33 degrees centigrade. Berliners will experience temperatures at 24 degrees centigrade with cloud in the sky, making a pleasant weather. Now, heading to Cairo, the hot sun will be out with temperatures at 38 degrees centigrade. Down under in Canberra, the temperatures are at 13 degrees centigrade with a partially cloudy sky. In Islamabad, the temperatures are at 33 degrees centigrade accompanied by thunderstorm. While in Jakarta, the temperatures are steady at 33 degrees centigrade, also with a thunderstorm in the forecast. That's all for now. Back to you.
Thank you for the weather updates, Raja Sarosh. And that is all for now. With the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.